The Book of Enoch is an ancient Hebrew manuscript that provides detailed insights into the mysterious fallen watchers and the giants known as the Nephilim. This intriguing text is referenced in the Bible, although it is not included in the canonical scriptures for all traditions, which has only added to its mystique. Over centuries, it has captivated the imagination of believers and scholars alike, offering a rare and compelling glimpse into a world teeming with celestial beings, enormous giants, and divine judgments that shape human history. Its stories and descriptions continue to fuel discussions about the origins of supernatural entities and the divine, making it a fascinating piece of ancient literature that bridges the divine and the human realms. Make sure you stay tuned until the very end of the presentation or discussion, because it will provide you with a comprehensive understanding of the intriguing mysteries surrounding the biblical giants. You'll learn about how these giants came into existence, the origins of their enormous stature, and the complex stories behind their existence. Additionally, you'll discover who the angelic beings known as the Watchers are, an order of angels with a significant and often mysterious role in these ancient narratives. Picture yourself transported to a time long before the era of Noah, an era shrouded in a different kind of beauty, one filled with awe-inspiring landscapes and creatures, yet also haunted by elements of terror and the unknown. This was a world where the line between divine and mortal myth and reality was blurred, creating a realm rich with wonder and strange, unexplained phenomena. It's a time when ancient stories about giants and angels formed the very fabric of the universe, shaping legends and beliefs that would echo through history. Suddenly, from the vast expanse of the heavens, beings of immense power, boundless knowledge, and divine presence begin to descend, their arrival shrouded in awe-inspiring splendor. Their appearance radiates with a brilliance so dazzling, it rivals the brilliance of countless stars scattered across the night sky, illuminating everything around them in a celestial glow. These beings walk among humans with an air of serenity and authority, yet they are unlike us in almost every way, ephemeral and majestic, yet distant and removed. They are the Watchers, angels if you will, created with the purpose of observing the world and its unfolding events, tasked with keeping watch over humanity. They are not meant to interfere or intervene. Their role is purely to observe, to bear witness without becoming entangled in the chaos of mortal affairs or influencing the course of events in any active way. Their presence is both awe-inspiring and unsettling, a reminder of forces far beyond human comprehension that quietly observe from above, eternal and unchanging. 1-4. This particular passage, which depicts the sons of God descending from the heavens to earth and forming unions with human women by taking them as wives, ultimately resulting in the birth of the formidable and enigmatic Nephilim, remains cloaked in an aura of mystery and intrigue. The story it tells is layered with questions and unresolved details, prompting much speculation over the ages. The ancient text known as the Book of Enoch offers an in-depth narrative of this very event, filling in the gaps left by the more succinct biblical account. It provides a wealth of specific names, vivid descriptions, and detailed explanations that are notably absent from the original biblical story, shedding additional light on the identities of those involved, their motives, and the broader significance of these divine-human interactions. This book has played a significant and profound role in shaping both Jewish and early Christian ideas and beliefs, exerting a deep influence on their theological and philosophical perspectives. It provides intricate and detailed accounts of angels who, at some point, abandoned their divine responsibilities and positions, leading to serious and far-reaching consequences as a result of their act of rebellion. These particular angels, often called Watchers, are first introduced in the ancient Hebrew text known as the Book of Enoch, where they are described as celestial beings tasked with the important duty of observing and overseeing humanity, acting as guardians or overseers in a divine capacity. According to the account in Enoch 6.1-2, it came to pass during a time when the population of mankind had increased significantly and multiplied upon the earth. During those days, beautiful and strikingly attractive daughters were born unto the children of men, captivating in their appearance and charm. These daughters of men drew the attention of the angels, who are described as the children of heaven, and they observed these women with desire. The angels, seeing these lovely daughters, were filled with lust and longing for them, which set the stage for the events that followed in that ancient narrative. These celestial beings, originally created to watch over, guide, and safeguard humankind, found themselves unexpectedly caught up in the complexities of human endeavors and passions. Their intended purpose was to serve as divine guardians, observing from above and shielding humanity from harm, yet they were led astray by their own carnal instincts and overwhelming desires. Among them, the foremost figure was Semyaza, a prominent angel who, according to the ancient text of Enoch 6.3, was the one who persuaded and enticed the other angels to abandon their divine duties and partake in this rebellious act. It was Semyaza's influence that spurred the celestial host into defiance, tarnishing their original nature and crossing the boundary between divine obligation and human-like temptation. Semyaza, the leader among them, spoke to the assembled angels with a certain sense of concern and trepidation, saying unto them that he harbored a fear that they might not truly be willing to go through with this act, and that if they refused, he alone would likely bear the heavy burden and punishment of committing such a terrible sin. Nevertheless, despite his fears and reservations, the other angels, a substantial group totaling 200 in number, expressed their agreement and support for his plan without hesitation. With their consensus secured, they then proceeded to descend from the heavens and make their way to the earth, moving forward with the deed they had discussed and approved. This particular grouping of angels, who would later come to be recognized as the Fallen Watchers, defied their original divine roles by taking human wives and engaging in unions with mortal women. Through these unions, they fathered a distinct race of beings known as the Nephilim. The Nephilim, often described as the offspring produced by the fallen angels, are depicted in the ancient texts, particularly in the Book of Enoch, as giants, massive and formidable creatures that towered over humans. The Book of Enoch, especially in chapter 7, verse 2, provides a detailed and vivid description of these giants, offering readers a glimpse into their imposing stature and extraordinary nature. This account paints a picture of extraordinary and somewhat ominous legacy left behind by the fallen angels' rebellious actions, emphasizing their significant and lasting impact on the ancient world. They became pregnant, and from their union, they bore offspring, great giants whose towering height reached an astonishing 3,000 ls. These formidable beings, born from the union, grew to be so enormous that they could easily overshadow entire cities. Their size was matched only by their insatiable appetite, as they consumed all of mankind's acquisitions, possessions, and resources with reckless abandon. Over time, as the giants' hunger grew and their dominance became more apparent, the humans found themselves unable to sustain or contain them any longer. Unable to withstand the relentless destruction and the overwhelming force of these colossal entities, the giants eventually turned their wrath against humanity itself. They became hostile and aggressive, attacking the very beings who had given them life. In their new ferocity, they devoured mankind without mercy, leaving destruction in their wake. These giants, standing miles above the humans, embodied strength and stature beyond compare. They were not merely colossal in their physical stature, towering over others with an intimidating presence, but also notoriously evil in their actions and intent. Their malevolence caused widespread destruction, leaving chaos and devastation in their wake across the land. The Nephilim are frequently linked to the idea of giants found in various other ancient writings and mythologies, where they are depicted as beings of immense size and power. Their emergence and influence in the world before the Great Flood are often viewed as significant factors that contributed to God's decision to purify the earth through a cataclysmic flood. Their existence is seen as a symbol of the corruption and violence that had permeated humanity's earliest days, leading to a divine judgment aimed at wiping out the pervasive darkness they embodied. These beings, often described as men of renown in Genesis 6.4, were not merely remarkable for their size and physical presence, which made them seem almost mythic or larger than life. However, their significance extended far beyond mere physicality, as they were also deeply morally corrupt, embodying a profound departure from righteousness. Their insatiable appetites and unquenchable thirst for more drove them to relentlessly exploit and consume every ounce of the earth's precious resources, forests, water, minerals, and all natural wealth, without regard for the future or the ecological balance. As their greed and hunger grew insistent, and their resources dwindled, they did not simply accept defeat or seek sustainable ways forward. Instead, they descended further into violence, bloodshed, and chaos, turning to brutal conflicts and destructive acts to satisfy their endless cravings. Their actions, driven by an overpowering desire for dominance and possession, contributed to a corrupt and violent era that marked a significant deviation from harmony and moral integrity. The Book of Enoch vividly depicts a world spiraling down into chaos and moral decay, primarily as a consequence of the corrupting influence wielded by the Nephilim. According to Enoch 7.5.6, these beings and those influenced by them started to behave in increasingly immoral ways, turning their sins against all forms of life, birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, showing a total disregard for the natural order. They began to commit heinous acts such as devouring each other's flesh and drinking one another's blood, actions that exemplify their complete moral degradation. As a result of these egregious deeds, the earth itself seems to rise in protest and accusation, condemning the lawless ones and their monstrous actions, as if the very ground bears witness to their widespread corruption and desolation. The actions of the Nephilim were so profoundly grievous and reprehensible that they stirred the very ground beneath them to lament and cry out against their deeds, prompting a divine response to intervene and bring judgment. Although their immense physical strength and towering presence were terrifying enough to strike fear into the hearts of mankind, the more insidious threat lay in the knowledge and secrets that had been passed down to them by the fallen watchers. This forbidden wisdom was not only dangerous but also capable of unleashing chaos and destruction on a scale that rivaled, if not surpassed, their physical terror. According to the ancient text known as the Book of Enoch, there are angels who imparted to humans a range of forbidden and dangerous knowledge, which in turn contributed to their moral and spiritual decline. Specifically, in section Enoch 8.1.3, it describes some of these secret teachings, highlighting that the angel Azazel was responsible for instructing mankind in the crafting of weapons and armor. These teachings included the making of swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, tools that had the potential to bring violence and destruction. Azazel also revealed to humans the secrets of metals found beneath the Earth's surface, exposing them to the properties and techniques associated with working precious and dangerous minerals. Such forbidden knowledge, as depicted in this ancient account, played a significant role in the corruption and chaos that ensued among humanity. Azazel also revealed to them the secrets of adornment and personal grooming, introducing the art of decoration through ornaments and cosmetics. This knowledge gave rise to vanity and superficial allure, making seduction easier and more prevalent, which in turn contributed to moral decay and a decline in genuine virtue. The proliferation of weapons became a catalyst for increased violence and bloodshed, fostering chaos and brutality among people. Simultaneously, the use of cosmetics and jewelry not only embellished appearances but also encouraged greed, pride, and superficiality, further fueling moral corruption and leading individuals away from virtuous paths. The other fallen angels played a significant role in imparting knowledge to humanity, specifically through teaching astrology, divination, and the practice of sorcery. The wisdom and insights they provided were not offered as benevolent gifts, but rather as curses that would have far-reaching negative consequences. This forbidden knowledge facilitated the emergence and proliferation of sorcery and witchcraft, which soon became widespread across various cultures and societies. It also contributed to the increasing worship of false gods and deities, as people found themselves turning away from divine guidance and instead relying heavily on these newly acquired, often dangerous, supernatural powers. This shift in reliance fostered a departure from faith in the divine and encouraged a worldview centered around these dark influences, leading humanity down a path fraught with spiritual peril and moral decline. Enoch 8.4 states that as mankind faced death and destruction, they raised their voices in desperate cries, their anguish and pleas rising continuously until they reached the very heavens. The intense and widespread suffering caused by the reckless and improper use of this knowledge resulted in countless voices of distress echoing through the skies, their desperate cries reaching up into the heavens above. These cries of pain and despair ultimately caught the attention of the divine, compelling God to intervene and respond to the outcry of the suffering humanity. In light of the widespread corruption spreading across the earth and the desperate cries of humanity ringing through the skies, God made the profound decision to intervene and take decisive action against the fallen watchers, those divine beings who had fallen from grace, and their offspring, who had become a scourge upon mankind. The Book of Enoch provides a detailed account of how, in response to this chaos and moral decay, God summoned the mighty archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, entrusting them with a critical task of addressing this cosmic imbalance and restoring order to the disturbed world. Enoch 9.1.2 captures the desperate plea and heartfelt cries of these mighty archangels, who, in their divine compassion, call out in anguish. Then, from their celestial vantage point, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel peer down from the heights of heaven and behold a terrible sight. They witness a tremendous amount of blood being poured out and spilled across the earth below. They see chaos, violence, and widespread lawlessness, all being unleashed upon the world in a relentless surge. Moved by the devastation, they exchange solemn words with one another, acknowledging the gravity of the situation. They observe that the earth, which was created to be inhabited by life, now echoes with the voices of those suffering, and it's crying out in despair. The sounds of agony and distress rise up through the air, reaching all the way to the gates of heaven, as if to request divine intervention, justice, or mercy amidst the turmoil. God issued a divine command to the archangels, instructing them to bind the fallen watchers, those heavenly beings who rebelled, and to cast them into the depths of the earth, where they would remain imprisoned until the appointed day of judgment. The Nephilim stand as a powerful reminder that there exist forces beyond the tangible, physical realm, spirits or entities that operate in the shadows, striving to corrupt, undermine, and ultimately destroy humanity. Their existence underscores the ongoing cosmic battle between good and evil, light and darkness, reminding us that our world is influenced by unseen powers lurking beyond our everyday perception. In Enoch 10.4.6, it describes in detail what is to happen to Azazel, emphasizing his ultimate fate. Once more, the Lord commands Raphael with authority, instructing him to seize Azazel and bind him tightly, hand and foot, so that he cannot escape or move freely. Subsequently, the Lord decrees that Azazel should be cast into complete darkness, banished to a place where no light can reach him. To ensure his imprisonment is secure, an opening in the barren desert is to be made, specifically in a location that remains desolate and uninhabited, at a time that corresponds to the day when it is old, meaning a time of desolation. Azazel is then to be cast into this open, empty wilderness, where he will be confined, and upon him, rough and jagged rocks are to be placed, harsh and unforgiving to serve as a perpetual barrier and punishment. His face is to be covered or veiled, preventing him from ever seeing the light again. This measure aims to deprive him of any vision of the sun or brightness, sealing him forever in darkness and confinement, where he will remain imprisoned, isolated from the world and the light he once might have known. Simiaza, along with the other fallen angels, encountered a fate very much like theirs. According to Enoch 10.11-12, it is written that the Lord commanded Michael, saying, "Go, bind Simiaza and his associates who have come together with women," and that this act was carried out because they had defiled themselves through their union with women, engaging in all manner of impurity and uncleanness. And when their sons have engaged in deadly combat with one another, and they have borne witness to the devastating destruction of their most cherished loved ones, then restrain them tightly and securely, holding them bound and confined for a span of 70 generations, deep within the valleys of the earth, until that destined day comes, the day of their ultimate judgment and the final culmination of all things. The fallen watchers, having betrayed their celestial duties and rebelled against the divine order, were captured and securely bound. They were then cast down into the darkest, most inaccessible depths, where they would stay imprisoned until the time of the final judgment. No matter how long they lingered in those unending shadows, they would remain confined, awaiting their reckoning. As for the Nephilim, their destiny was sealed with equally grim circumstances. God proclaimed that the earth, corrupted and tainted by their existence, needed to be purged of these abominations, these monstrous hybrid beings that embodied chaos and defiance. They would face imminent destruction, as the divine decree sought to restore purity and order to the world that had been compromised by their presence. Enoch 10.9 recounts that the Lord spoke to Gabriel, instructing him to act decisively against the corrupt and wicked. He commanded Gabriel to proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, the individuals who have deviated from righteousness and moral integrity. The Lord also directed him to oppose those involved in fornication and to destroy the children born of such wrongful acts. Furthermore, Gabriel was urged to eliminate the children of the Watchers, those fallen angels who descended to earth and corrupted mankind, along with their progeny among humans. The Lord's intention was to cause these wicked ones to be driven out, to send them one against the other, fueling conflict and strife so intense that they would ultimately turn their own violence upon one another and destroy each other in the chaos of battle. The Nephilim were destined to face destruction through a dual process. First, they would bring about their own downfall, and second, they would be wiped out by a divine act of cleansing. This divine act was the Great Flood, a cataclysmic deluge that God decided to send upon the earth. This flood, famously recounted in the story of Noah, served as God's chosen method to purge the planet of the widespread corruption plaguing humanity and the chaos brought about by the fallen Watchers and their offspring, the Nephilim. It was a divine judgment aimed at cleansing the earth of the degeneracy and evil that had spread unchecked, with the flood acting as a sort of purifying reset ordained by divine will. Enoch 10.2.3 documents the specific directives given by God to Noah. These instructions include covering him thoroughly with darkness, shrouding him completely in that obscurity. Furthermore, Noah is instructed to remain there, enveloped in darkness, for eternity. God even commands that Noah's face be covered, so he may be prevented from seeing any light. This passage emphasizes the extent of divine concealment and the forbiddance of light reaching Noah's eyes, symbolizing a profound act of divine mystery and protection through darkness. Then the Most High, the Supreme, Holy, and Exalted One, spoke forth his divine command and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech. He conveyed to him the divine message, instructing him to go to Noah and deliver a sacred proclamation in the name of the Lord. Uriel was told to conceal himself and not reveal his presence, but to openly communicate the grave and momentous news that the earth was nearing its end. The message was that the entire world would be completely obliterated by a great flood, a deluge that was rapidly approaching and would cover every corner of the earth. This deluge would be so vast and overpowering that it would annihilate everything living and all that existed upon the land, leaving nothing untouched by its destructive force. Noah was tasked with constructing a massive ark, a colossal vessel designed to preserve his life, the lives of his family members, and a carefully chosen remnant of the earth's creatures amidst the approaching catastrophe. This divine instruction came as a result of the impending deluge that would forever alter the face of the planet. The floodwaters that would soon engulf the earth had the power to obliterate everything in their path, eradicating the Nephilim, those legendary giants born from a union of fallen angels and human women, and annihilating the corrupted humanity that had deviated far from the original divine teachings. These humans had embraced wickedness and unrighteousness, following blindly the deceptive guidance of the fallen watchers who had once rebelled against divine authority. Yet, despite the destruction of the physical forms of these ancient giants, their spirits, their very essences, remained unscathed. The spirits of the Nephilim, their souls and lingering energies, were not vanquished by the floodwaters. They endured beyond the physical demise, lingering in the spiritual realm, waiting, perhaps, for a future moment or purpose yet to be revealed. Enoch 1:5.8.9 elaborates that the giants, who are born from a union of spirits and flesh, will be recognized and identified as evil spirits inhabiting the earth. These evil spirits are destined to dwell upon the land, living and moving within the earthly realm. They are the result of their physical forms. These monstrous beings emerged because they are created from men's flesh as well as the spirits of the holy watchers, making their origin both physical and spiritual. Their beginning, their primal root, can be traced back to the holy watchers, the divine entities who originally watched over the earth but then fell from grace, giving rise to these corrupted beings that now infect the terrestrial domain. As such, these evil spirits are a direct consequence of the union between human flesh and the spirits that were once noble but have now taken on a malevolent nature, manifesting as the giants and their spiritual counterparts who now dwell and influence the world. They shall become evil spirits living among mankind on earth, and these malevolent entities shall be known by the name of evil spirits. These spirits, having been severed from both heaven above and the earth below, transformed into demons, dark forces that persistently torment and afflict humanity in countless ways. The narrative of the fallen watchers, along with the Nephilim, is far more than a simple historical or mythological account. It embodies a story that continues to resonate with profound meaning and importance for believers and spiritual seekers today. This story serves as a reminder of the enduring struggle between good and evil, illustrating how those who are cast down from divine grace can become sources of ongoing suffering and chaos in the world. The significance of these ancient tales persists, offering insight into the nature of evil, the origins of demonic forces, and their lasting impact on the human condition, making them as relevant now as they were in times long past. The Book of Enoch, despite not being included in the official biblical canon accepted by many religious traditions, presents a compelling and thought-provoking allegory that delves deeply into themes such as the perilous nature of transgression, the far-reaching consequences that arise from sin, and the enduring victory of divine justice over hubris and defiance. It functions as a stark reminder that no matter how formidable or wise an individual may appear to be, acts of rebellion against God's divine will inevitably result in ruin and downfall. This ancient text underscores the idea that crossing moral boundaries and challenging higher authority come at a significant cost, emphasizing that divine justice, although sometimes delayed, is ultimately inevitable and inevitable in its enforcement. The tale of the Watchers and the Nephilim offers a distinctive and profound view on the essence of evil, pushing us beyond a solely human-centered understanding. It hints that evil isn't simply a problem rooted in human actions or moral failings, but instead extends into the vast cosmic realm. This story implies that there are spiritual beings, powerful and rebellious entities, who have choices and free will just as humans do, and their rebellion against divine authority represents a larger, more complex struggle. In this context, evil becomes something woven into the fabric of the universe, involving forces that operate on a level far beyond human comprehension, suggesting a cosmic dimension to the perennial battle between good and evil that shapes the very nature of existence itself. That sin's repercussions extend far beyond individual transgressions. They highlight the way in which such moral failings can ripple outward, affecting entire communities, societies, and ultimately the entire world, underscoring that the consequences of giving in to temptation aren't confined to oneself but can have far-reaching and devastating effects on the broader fabric of existence. A central theme woven throughout the Book of Enoch revolves around the vital significance of adhering to and obeying God's divine will. The group known as the Watchers were given a sacred, holy duty, a divine assignment entrusted to them with great responsibility. However, their craving for power, influence, and personal pleasure gradually clouded their judgment and moral compass. This desire for worldly gains and fleeting satisfaction ultimately caused them to abandon and neglect the heavenly mission that had been bestowed upon them, leading to their downfall and highlighting the peril of succumbing to individual temptations over divine guidance. Their fall acts as a compelling warning to every believer about the perils of turning away from God and pursuing satisfaction or purpose outside of His divine will. It stands as a potent reminder that genuine happiness, deep fulfillment, and lasting contentment are only attainable through obedience to God's commands and alignment with His divine plan. Additionally, the Book of Enoch underscores the unshakable certainty of divine justice, reaffirming the idea that ultimately, divine justice will prevail and that no wrongdoing will go unnoticed or unpunished in the eyes of the divine. Although the fallen Watchers and the Nephilim inflicted immense suffering and chaos upon the world, their ultimate demise was inevitable and guaranteed. The rigorous binding of the fallen angels and the catastrophic flood that eradicated the Nephilim serve as clear evidence that God's justice is unwavering and absolutely certain to prevail in the end. The Book of Enoch further emphasizes the significance of intermediaries, such as angels and other divine agents, in executing God's divine plan for humanity, illustrating how divine justice and intervention are carried out through various celestial messengers and celestial orders. Archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel serve vital and multifaceted roles in carrying out God's divine judgment and safeguarding the faithful from harm. Their significance is deeply woven into the biblical narrative, illustrating their essential function in the divine order. This overarching theme of angelic intervention is not confined to a single story, but is vividly echoed throughout numerous biblical texts. In these scriptures, angels frequently appear as messengers who deliver divine news, guidance, or warnings, and as protectors who shield individuals or groups from danger. Acting explicitly on God's authority, they often execute His will swiftly and compassionately, embodying the divine commitment to justice and mercy. Their presence underscores the idea that spiritual forces are actively involved in earthly affairs, emphasizing the divine oversight and intervention that shape human destiny. Another important aspect of the Book of Enoch is its focus on the extraordinary importance of prayer and genuine repentance. The sincere cries and heartfelt prayers of the righteous individuals, who endured and suffered greatly under the brutal oppression and tyranny of the Nephilim, ascended strongly to the heavens. These fervent pleas and appeals from those who remained faithful and just in the face of overwhelming evil ultimately stirred divine intervention. Their sincere calls to God for justice and mercy served as a catalyst that prompted God to respond and to take decisive action, demonstrating the profound power that prayer and repentance can hold in influencing divine judgment and intervention. This message acts as a gentle reminder of how vital prayer truly is, emphasizing that it is through our sincere and heartfelt conversations with God that we find reassurance, comfort, and strength. It also affirms with certainty that God listens attentively to the prayers and cries of His people, never turning away or ignoring them, but always responding in His perfect timing. The life of Enoch, as described in the text, stands as a powerful illustration of this truth, serving as a real-life example of how living a life rooted in righteousness and faith can forge an intimate and meaningful relationship with God. Through his unwavering devotion, obedience, and pursuit of righteousness, Enoch demonstrates what it means to walk closely with the divine, highlighting the transformative and rewarding nature of cultivating a genuine bond with God through dedicated prayer and a faithful life. The Book of Enoch offers a fascinating glimpse into early concepts about what happens after death and the ultimate destiny of those deemed wicked. It delves into detailed descriptions of the binding of the fallen angels, also known as the Watchers, and the spirits of the Nephilim, the giants born from their union with human women. These spirits and angels are held beneath the earth, confined in a place of imprisonment until the appointed day of judgment. This portrayal provides valuable insight into the eschatological beliefs held by ancient Jews, illustrating their ideas about divine justice, the final reckoning,